So my name is Harri Manninen. I run Nordic VR startups here in Helsinki. It's a new VR AR accelerator for Nordic VR AR startups. We do invest in companies, we mentor companies, we coach them, and it's a 6-month program that always culminates in a demo day, which is going to be this year at Slush. So that's what I do. Here are our wonderful panelists, indie developers who know everything about developing VR games and content. Can you guys just quickly introduce yourselves, starting from Ville?
So I'm Ville Kivistö. Right now I'm a lead software developer at Varjo. We are doing a next generation VR headset. And formerly I was a CEO and co-founder of Mindfield Games, which was, I think, the first Finnish VR studio. And I've been working with VR for 4 years now. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Lasse Liljedahl. I am the CEO and co-founder of Iceflake Studios. Our company has been around over 10 years now, and we have made over 15 games for different platforms. And our games have over 25 million players. And during the last couple of years, we have been also making a VR game. And we released it last year, called Iceflake's ice fishing game, and now we are doing some other VR stuff.
Hello. Hello, hello. My name is Juhana Kotilainen, and I'm an executive director of Nexus Star Group, which is a Chinese investment and holding group. As well, I'm the CEO of Silvermile Entertainment, which is a Finnish game company. And we've launched one VR game called Flushy Fish, then we rebranded the game to Spellfish. So it's out on Daydream and Gear VR. So I got a lot of learnings from the mobile VR side, and hopefully I can help anyone who's interested about that. Especially it seems like Chinese are very interested about VR in long term, so hopefully I can help you guys.
Hi, I'm Ricardo. I'm CEO from Lasse Studios. We made the first commercial VR game from Finland, and last year and a half we've been just helping new teams there in FEVR, and we are currently developing like 2 new games.
Thanks, guys. So obviously you've all been developing VR for a long time. You did the first game, and you said Mindfield was the first studio. You've seen how the hardware numbers have developed in the last few years, and some might call them a little bit disappointing. Do you think, as indies and as us developers, is the market now ready to support indie developers? Is there enough players? Is there enough of a market that you can build an indie VR studio?
Well, I try to look like more into not only gaming part as well, but I see VR as a very value-addable technology. So, of course, the thing is that it's not so ready to make money, so financially support companies right yet. But then there's a lot of good about it as well. So you can differentiate with it. And let's say that the experience, when you learn how to do this kind of games or so on for it, it as well says that you are the pioneer of this whole industry. So the best things are pretty much built for VR with Unity. So it's very likely that you are one of the best in the world to build for this platform, whatever it's going to be in the future. So the learnings are very valuable. And as well, I can say that the mobile phones are selling better with VR than without it. So this is straight from the manufacturers. So basically it needs that they have a demand for content, and in that sense they should be able to as well finance some of the projects for these devices. But of course it's very like deal and case by case, but I'll put this forward to the next guy.
Okay, thanks. I have a little bit of a different opinion because our ideology in our company is a little bit different maybe from other VR companies, because the games we make are games that can be played always with and without VR. And that's something that changes the perspective a little bit, because we think that the VR adds value to the core content, but it doesn't change the game. So the game should be fun to play even without VR, but the VR can add a lot more value, give completely different experience for the players. And to answer the question about the numbers of the devices, it's a little bit biased because the numbers haven't been increasing a lot during the last few months or this year, but those who are using or already own the devices are still, a great percentage of those are still using them, and they are spending money on those devices. So for us, it is very beneficial to have VR because it adds value for us and it makes money for us, but alone it wouldn't be enough.
Yeah, I totally agree that value added is super valuable in that sense that it kind of makes the experience to a total next level of mobile games.
Ricardo, was Kumon playable both on VR and without VR?
Yeah, it was both, and we did had also a version for mobile. We actually released for NVIDIA Shield, and then let's do the Android also, because they asked this. It does add a value. It just makes it a bit harder when you are developing a game and you're thinking a VR game, and you want to add this that you can play without the VR, so you have to think a little bit different way. It's much easier to just go in one line, just VR, or just like a go PC or mobile way. But it's a challenge that I think it's worth to try, because it's quite risky to just do VR at the moment. There is not enough device there or chance to make a money. It's like we were talking, like there is like maybe 30 games who had made over $1 million in profit, but I think it's like Iceflakes are doing. I think they're in the correct way, and I think for new developers also, I would advise to do a cross-platform at the moment. Maybe after 1 or 2 years, or by 2020, like everybody predicts that it's gonna be mainstream, and then just think like just VR.
And when you say cross-platform, do you mean across all of the VR platforms, or both VR and non-VR?
Example, Iceflakes, you can even play that. There is the mobile version also. I think it's pretty similar than what you play in the computer and what you play in the VR. So that's one option, or at least that you can play with and without the VR headset in the computer.
I have a question for Ville. Since Mindfield released Pollen, right, and you eventually released it first without VR support and added it later. Now looking back, how does that decision feel for you? Like what played into that decision?
Well, the original goal was to make more revenue by targeting the bigger audience with traditional flat screen support. But in the end, I think the problem was that by trying to target both groups, like VR gamers and non-VR gamers, we actually didn't reach either of those. So it was quite a failure, and definitely a risk that you need to take into consideration if you want to do a game for VR and non-VR platforms.
And Lasse, how do you guys combat that it's not a watered down experience both on VR and PC, but that you get actual value from both both approaches?
We first fine-tuned the standard version of the game into finished product and then released it, and only after that we started adding the VR support for it. And it came like 6 months after the initial release when the VR version came out. And we tried to keep the message very simple, that only one line, play it with and without VR, and basically not trying to advertise the differences between the VR and the standard game, but we try to advertise that we have a game that can be played with and without VR.
Okay. So I've recently read an article, and you guys heard this before, but where they said that VR developers should go into cockroach mode, basically cut down costs as much as possible, keep burn rates down, and wait for the market to mature. Do you guys, are you executing this strategy at your current companies? Or what are your thoughts on that? Any thoughts?
We actually had been doing that for quite long because we want to stick with the VR. But what we start to do is not only doing games, but also doing side projects like a VR experience, like for advertising companies or doing business-to-business application. That's one way to survive. Because depending only from the game, I think it's general game industry that it's worse than lottery, that one game can score a high jackpot and then some other games, amazing games, and then don't do anything. It's really easy to flop. It's easier to flop than succeed with whatever game. And so I think like it have to be low cost, like a low burn rate to survive until it becomes mainstream.
Well, I would say to combine the VR with touchscreen games is the best model to go with. So you have both of the experience, because you can potentially get some extra visibility from the VR side. Of course, it has to work perfectly on all the platforms, so it's not easy thing to do. But things are moving fast, so hard to say what's going to happen. But a lot of people are believing that it's going to be growing a lot, so we'll see.
Our approach have been pretty similar than Ricardo said, that we make games for VR, but we also try to figure out how to make business-to-business marketing with different VR products. But our approach to that has been that we try to make those products as close to games as possible, so that it would benefit those business clients, but also benefit us as a game developer somehow, that we can take those things that we learn by doing those business solutions into the gaming world at some later time.
Actually, that's what people had been approaching for us, like for training or whatever business. It should add some gameplay element on that makes, I don't know, less boring or just to add like some fun, and it's fun for the developers also, that not to do like we can do something related what we know how to do.
Can you bring that work and that, you know, what you learned from those projects back to your sort of own IP and your own projects?
Yes, and then especially we've been thinking to do some totally different applications, but it's like since we're game developers and we don't know what is the problems, like the issue, so it's like harder to come with the solution. So we learn, like I think both sides are learning a lot, like the business companies and ourselves also.
Like for the developers, you definitely want to be in cockroach mode and keep the burn as low as possible. And you also should try to bring new products to markets like in quite rapid phase, just to try to make that big hit, because that's the only way to make money, like big money. Of course, being like a hardware company doesn't, well, we at Vario really cannot be in cockroach mode, but like for us, the business market is actually the more interesting and actually our main focus right now, and that's definitely something that developers should have an eye on, because you actually can make some profit from that.
Okay.
One side, I'm looking into it as well, that there's not so many VR developers who are working on that field, but there's a lot of IPs, there's a lot of commercial partners, movies who really want to get into this business, and it's very expensive and a long process to start from scratch for some people, so that could be interesting part. So you have an existing game you've done all the work for it, and you have the whole code for it. Can you rebrand this game to multiple different IPs easily and try to get these other commercial partners into the whole thing. So basically, reusing your code and everything you've done, build it further, and work with other bigger IPs to grow it. Because the thing is, if these guys really need to find a good studio, it's not going to be that easy to find it. And if they find it, it's going to be super expensive. So if you have something to offer these guys that's good price, good quality, it makes sense, it's perfect for the IP, it could be a good deal for you. And in that business, they are not doing it to make money that way, but it's a new platform. So, example, like markets their movies and whatever it is. So it's kind of a special thing that they can show. And some even like airplanes and these kind of people are looking into it. So at least I've seen that a lot of people, commercial companies are interested about the whole technology and the possibilities of it. And then again, can you actually make something very meaningful with the same learnings to kind of like change the world with your VR experience, your skills, your professional skills in it? Because it's going to go a lot into the content in the end. So how can you like interact with other people, and how you can train other people to do something, so the interaction will come more deep at some point. So, well, shortly said.
Thank you. Going to talk a little bit about platforms, especially mobile VR, because I know you guys have launched games for mobile VR. Looking at the hardware numbers, it's clear that you could say, just by looking at the numbers, that mobile VR is way, way bigger as a market. But obviously, you guys have developed for it, you've seen it up close. What are the key challenges you feel like doing content for mobile VR?
Honestly, like, of course, the performance problems are quite different from the PC. But I think the mobile VR market is not that lucrative right now, because honestly, my opinion is that most people who have mobile VR headsets keep them in closets where they've stashed them once they got that bundled with their new phone. And I think that's the state of the mobile VR market right now.
Well, kind of I have to disagree on that side, because everybody has the phone in their pocket, and then to the other side, not so many have the devices that you need a PC and so on. Of course, Mac's gonna work soon, but you can still reach a much bigger mass with the phones, and that's gonna evolve. And I know that like mobile phone manufacturers are investing a lot to these, and as well Google and so on. So like usually as well, these new technologies work through the whole economy. So it needs a huge investment for people to get interested about it. And I think the agenda is for some people to build a new industry for sure on this side. So I think mobile VR is probably going to grow bigger and bigger all the time. And huge agenda, because of course you want to have these devices without a core, like a cords or anything like that. So I think it's a core thing to make the technology smaller and work with whatever. So
yeah, I think that there's one problem with mobile VR, and it's that like when you put on a headset, you will lose all your awareness of your surroundings. And like even if you have your mobile VR device with you, it's not like you probably don't want to lose yourself into some world where you cannot see what others are doing around you. And I think that's the big problem with mobile VR, in that you really don't want to do that in public spaces, because VR experiences are very personal. And that's why it's something that you would rather do at home than in a bus.
Airplane is my favorite VR place.
I've done that quite much, but still, like I know that for many people it can be very, not that fun to actually lose yourself, knowing that there are people around you.
Juhana, what's your go-to content in airplanes on VR?
I've been mainly playing our own game, so that's just been.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Lasse.
Yeah. One thing that we have encountered while doing some experiments with mobile VR is that the feedback what we get when showing the mobile version of any content we have been trying to do is that the quality is not the same as with the bigger devices. And when people try that mobile version of that same content, they just typically want to go away after trying that out and doesn't want to try out the better version or with the bigger devices. So I think that there's a danger in mobile VR that it will kind of distract people to think that this is the same as with the Vive or Oculus or other systems.
So it's a disappointing experience for
exactly.
them.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like because these are content based, and people see, like they believe in a sense what they see, and when they see not so good mobile VR content or a device, it can give them the feeling that this technology is not for them. So there's definitely that danger as well. The game we did, we had to tweak it to the bare minimum. So pretty much we were building a smartphone touchscreen game. So we had to bake it to very small size, and everything had to be tweaked to the just as like the very early mobile games. So it needs a lot of like how would I say, a lot of baking into a very low performance size. So of course, but that can be done because it's not that hard in a way. But then of course you need the power and devices heat, but there's a lot of tricks for that. So I'll definitely like to share if anyone is interested, like some best practices for that. So it's not impossible at all to make a good experience for phone, but that's as well, like the content has to be curated very well, and we need to, those success cases, and that's the big agenda for these manufacturers, Google and so on, to push the success cases out there, help people to make the good games and finance these games that are very high quality to show people how good you can do with the technology. So
cool.
The ball is with Google and the manufacturers to drive that through as well.
Hopefully they are in the audience listening. Guys, you've been developing games and content for a long time. What's the key thing you've had to unlearn from previous platforms? What's the key thing you've had to learn when developing for VR? Easy question.
The 3D space, in a sense, that had to like start to think about things in a like a real world in a way. When on the flat screen, you think it about more the experience that's right there. But even when making this kind of game, you have to like think that this character is gonna fly there and there and there. So you have to like think of like a real world, and so it's adds a dimension to the whole experience. Even though we did the most simple product that was kind of supposed to be like Angry Birds of VR, a very simple game, but then it gets complex when the character is flying up, and it's only flying straight lines, but still it's multiple levels of the world you have to think of, and how does it interact with everything around and so on. But that's why it makes it so interesting, because you don't have any kind of limits there, and that's part of the fun.
Cool. Lasse?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much the same, but a little bit different, because our experience have been that how much you want to take away from the authentic experience without taking away the immersion. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, while making a VR, you want to give the immersion that you are in there, but while making games, you can't make things too complex. And for example, in our game, we have different game mechanics that can be very tough to understand if you don't know what you're doing, and using different equipment require the knowledge of the sports you are doing in our game. And if you don't know that, it's too complex to explain in that VR world. So it's always a compromise between how much you can take away from the authenticity without taking away the immersion in that sense. And that's basically even more enhanced in VR world than in traditional games.
Yeah. One of the studios we have in our accelerator, Catalan, who's sitting over there, they like to call it stretched reality. So it's kind of like reality, but not. So that's how you sort of bake in the game mechanics into it. That you're immersed, but you have superpowers and stuff like that. So, guys, starting from Ricardo, what's the one advice you would give to the VR developers in the audience?
Just keep the passion and the hope alive that this will become mainstream. Keep the eyes open, the mind open, not to just be as going one line, just developing games. And as I have a fellow friends who are doing also business to business, and now they're expanding for the for the game side also. So what I'm seeing now is that everybody's doing everything in the VR, that all kind of lines, not like they keep one as a priority, but they are doing games or business to business as a side one, and everybody's hoping that it will become a mainstream. So just keep working and doing whatever it comes. So don't stick in one line only.
Yeah, I recommend people to get in touch with Ricardo, with Lasse, Harri, and everybody here with Ville to get learnings and even to get contacts through these guys, because they've seen many of things. They can help you from the wolf pots, or how we Finnish people say. But anyways, I think it's very important to talk with these guys, get the learnings from them, even connections. These guys can help you connect. Please contact me if you want to do something. I'll be happy to help. Put you in touch with some people who could help you on multiple different things, and work with commercial IPs, and as well think about very kind of, how would I say it, smartly financially, that it's very likely not going to make so much money by itself. So you have to pay your bills, and you should maybe find a partner to work with who can finance it, maybe one with a bigger IP, and be very smart about what you're doing. It's still a super interesting platform to specially develop for, and but I think these kind of discussions with other people is super important. So because it's moving fast, and talk with the technology partners is very important as well. So be smart about it.
Yeah, don't get lost in the hype. So everything that mentions VR is not gold.
That's true as well.
Yeah, keep your mind clear and have your own focus, and understand what you are doing, and take your own goals, and don't don't go everywhere that others hype about, that it's VR, that's VR. There's awesome things in VR and lots of things you can do with VR, but think yourself what is good and what is worthwhile doing.
I mean, the VR market is still so young that there's so much room for new findings and new mechanics and whatnot, that it gives developers quite nice way to actually innovate and create something totally new. One of the learnings we learned with Mindfield was that what makes VR experiences great are other players. So if you do new VR stuff, you should try to make it social or multiplayer. Just to see some other person in VR is so immense experience that it's definitely something you should do.
All right, I think that's the time we have. Thank you very much, everybody.
Amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Thank you.